welcome to another episode of E&F TV's Bridging the Gap. Today I'm joined by Suleman Toor of Lavanda. Suleman, good morning. How are you?
Morning, Jason. All good. Thank you very much. Thank you for having me.
I said good morning, but you're based in Pakistan and it's 3:30, is it? 4 o'clock or something over in Pakistan right now?
It is 3:30 and I'm very used to the fact that people are calling me good morning, good morning, good evening. So I'm just matching everybody's timeline here. Yeah, I'm getting used to it. No problems.
Fantastic. So how's things with you then? You're obviously you're winding down for the weekend, or is Lavanda the kind of company that winds up for the weekend? I'd say at Edwards and Finn, it's always crazy busy on a Friday.
Crazy busy. In short, it's crazy busy right now on a Friday. Generally you would wind down, but working for a startup, very dynamic organization, lots of focus on client requirements, their needs, and how to expand our business further. Fridays can generally be very, very quiet, and sometimes it can be really extremely busy. And this is one of those Fridays, busy ones.
Unfortunately for you.
Fortunate, unfortunate. It comes and goes with time. So, working remotely has its perks as well. So if it's a downtime, really, I can head out to the gym and do other things. So yeah. I don't mind that at all,
Absolutely.
actually.
Absolutely. Okay, so to start off, just tell us how you came to the position that you're in at the minute at Lavanda. Tell us a little bit about your career path.
So it's a long list of jobs that I've taken and lots of things that I've done that are not on my CV at the moment. So I grew up in Pakistan, born and raised in Pakistan, Karachi, lived here up until 26 years of age. I'm 43 now. So I did my master's in business administration, specialized in brand management, services marketing, industrial relations, business policy, merchandising, trade promotion. Never got a job in marketing because the first job that I got later that I landed was for Pakistan International Airlines, and that was in revenue management. I didn't realize how how much I fell in love with the concept of actually looking into data and making rational decisions, and basically going in head to head with marketing and sales teams, asking about what their commercial focuses were, and what sort of revenue their activities would generate. It's not like a finance role as a lot of people outside the hospitality and travel and tourism industry people they think that it's a finance role, but
Yeah.
revenue management is a very marketing focused role which looks into all different aspects of the business. I mean, we're constantly sitting in the heart of any organization that exists, really. um, Highly underrated, unappreciated role, I would say, but it is in the heart of any organization. So it just started, that journey started out from Pakistan International Airlines, which is the national flag carrier for the country. I then got an opportunity in Qatar Airways. I was doing business as a business analyst. And then while that was happening, I applied for my UK immigration under the highly skilled migrant program. I got that approved, landed in the UK, worked for Virgin Trains as a yield analyst, and that was a contractual role for 9 months. Worked my way towards British Midland International. That was another yield analyst role. Um, Transition into a pricing analyst role, which was one hell of a challenge, really, because I was just managing inventory in the airlines first, and then it moved on towards pricing. And that from that point onwards, it was all about learning new skills in Excel, looking into different data platforms that each of these organizations have, and every organization has a different platform, really. Landed my first role in the hospitality industry with Hilton, and this is the granddaddy of all the revenue management in the hospitality industry. I've, as far as I believe, because I've worked for the Hilton, Best Western, the Marriott, and now currently working for Lavanda, and I've never seen, as far as my experience goes, I've obviously Hilton had the best training platform out there. I mean, you had to go through the grind, of course, but once you've done this role, you really understand what revenue management is all about. Quick decision making, a lot of intuition, a lot of data analysis, a lot of personal selling. And then being moving into multiple roles. The last role that I had before joining Lavanda was as a chief operating officer for a chain of schools that exist in Pakistan. It's a private school. Um, and there I realized how much I was missing revenue management. I was dying to get back into the field. Um, the challenge of doing data analysis, the challenge of meeting with clients, the challenge of uh, actually explaining your rationale to somebody who's completely operationally focused, operationally driven,
Mm.
explaining a long-term revenue strategy to somebody who doesn't understand numbers. That's a challenge on its own. I was missing that part. And finally, I found an opportunity with Lavanda, thanks to yourself as well, of course. Um, and that being 43 at at this age, you're looking for a lot of freedom with regards to how to express yourself, how to conduct business, how to bring about changes that you think that can work for the organizations. And this opportunity turned out to be one of the best opportunities that's out there because it's a startup as well. It gives me the flexibility to actually approach different situations, different scenarios, different feasibility analysis, communication with the clients in a fashion that I see fit. And of course, falling within the parameters of the organization as well. Um, so at this age, I was looking for a lot of freedom, flexibility, and the comfort of working from Pakistan. And that opportunity just comes in at a very, very nice time. So I grasped it
Mm.
with both hands. That's me.
No, it does seem like you're a really good fit for Lavanda, knowing you as I do. We've known each other for some time now. Just rewinding a little bit, you mentioned your early roles in rail and in airlines and then going on to Hilton. Back in school, were you always mathematically minded? Were you analytical? Were you more commercially focused? What was young Suleman like?
Straight A's in maths, advanced calculus,
Okay.
straight A's all the way through. Quite frankly, it doesn't relate to revenue management at all. For revenue management, it's a role that I didn't really look for. It just happened. I was always going towards marketing roles, brand management, building brand equities, communications. That was my specialty. That is something that I wanted to do when I was a young kid. It's just strange how exposure can actually change the way you think about things. So I fell in love with
Mm.
the field of revenue management because I was then drawing rationale behind how organizations were behaving and what sort of information they were looking at when they were making commercial decisions. That made more sense to me than going towards the soft side of selling an organization or its product.
Mm.
So a young kid, always hardworking, always getting good grades, never getting into trouble. I should have, but not now.
But looking at it, I mean, it seems like the perfect vocation for you because, fantastic at maths and analytical, but also with a passion for marketing is very much what revenue management's all about, would you say?
The strange thing was that I was an introvert before I took the Hilton role. So I was looking into mostly business analysis, making those
Mm.
pricing and revenue changes, or pricing or inventory control changes. As a young analyst, you don't get exposure to a lot of clients. You also don't speak to a lot of internal stakeholders because you're reporting to your direct boss. The analysis are done, your part of the job is complete, and then you move on to the next piece of work.
Mm.
With revenue management, however, you have to, when the stakeholders are involved, you become more of a salesperson than an analyst. You're constantly
Yeah.
doing these analysis and constantly talking to people, and you're selling your strategy all the time to internal stakeholders as well as the clients that you're talking to. So I've become more of a salesperson, more of a marketing person while I've been working in revenue management. It's a strange concept, really, but it's sort
Mm.
of worked in that way. I've grown into that role. I've become more confident in my communication than I was when I was a young kid doing a degree in marketing. It's really strange how that's worked out. So a lot of personal experiences, a lot of uh, decisions that I've taken in terms of changing jobs and uh, taking some initiatives. It just helps me as a person to grow in as a person, as a professional. So yeah, I sort of have now fit into any revenue management role that can come my way.
Mm. Soft skills are something that has always interested me and something that I think I've like taken for granted. Coming through hotels and doing hotel ops, with that constant development of soft skills, because if you're on reception, you're dealing with people face to face or in the restaurant. Be that good or bad experiences, you may be dealing with a complaint, but it's all soft skills. And what you said was really interesting because I suppose somebody that comes through and gets an analytical degree from university goes into an analyst role, like you said, a little exposure to stakeholder management, suddenly find themselves rising through the ranks and in a managerial role, maybe doesn't have the soft skills that, say, someone that's done the equivalent through hotels, someone that's been hotel receptionist, up to reservationist, reservations manager, and then finds themselves in a revenue management role is better equipped to deal with that than someone that's come through with an analytical degree. Would you say that's true?
Um, Look, the thing is that I've worked with some absolute geniuses and somebody who is completely driven from the customer focus side and coming in from the operational background into revenue management. Quite frankly, it's my firm belief that revenue management is all about common sense and some sort of rationale that you have. If you can just make sense out of data, it's really a lot about your intuition, some processes that you follow, but a lot about your intuition in with regards to how you can become a successful revenue manager, because it's your ability to communicate with regards to how you're looking at data. Because for somebody, an Excel sheet might look like the screen of a Matrix, like you're in the Matrix movie. That's everybody is different. So if you're looking at an Excel document or a data analysis that you've looked at or you've designed, it's most of the time the other person cannot see that picture.
Yeah,
And then your storytelling ability comes into play that this is what I'm looking at. These are the pros and cons of this strategy. Now, can you now give me some room to try the strategy out?
yeah,
It's a lot. I think throughout my career, I've done 70% personal selling, then 30% of actual revenue management, data analysis. And the more you grow into the role, it becomes more about how you can get the internal stakeholders on board and convince the client whether your strategies are right and the best way forward. So I've seen a lot of people grow from reservations role, from the front office role into the revenue management side. Um, it sometimes works, sometimes doesn't. It really depends on the ability of that person uh, to to look into that data, or maybe develop those skills to look at the data. Let's see.
yeah,
Not
yeah,
everybody
yeah,
has the aptitude to become to be successful in revenue management, because you're constantly looking at different scenarios and everybody comes in. There are a lot of stakeholders that come into revenue, dealing with revenue management, saying, do a forecast, do a budgeting, change pricing, let's negotiate contracts with the third parties. Let's go for wholesale agreement. Hey, let's look at the marketing content that's available on the website. Hey, are we connected to different OTAs or not? Like I said, I mean, the finance team will ask you always, hey, where's the profitability? The client and the finance team will ask you that. The sales team will say, hey, why are you raising rates? I can't secure more corporate clients with the rates that you're increasing. And I'm also looking at the revenue production that comes through. So there's a lot of balls that you're juggling constantly on at one point of time. If you're into this role, it's a fantastic challenge. And you're
mm.
constantly, it's never a boring day in revenue management. Sometimes there are, of course, when you choose not to work, but most of the time it comes in with a very exciting challenge.
Tell us a little bit for people that don't know. Tell us a little bit about Lavanda. and tell us a bit about the industry that you're working in at the minute, because you've kind of covered everything, haven't you, with your career? You find yourself in service apartments now. Tell us a little bit about the company.
So, Lavanda, in terms of all the established players out there, can be considered a startup. It's a tech firm. It started off with providing a property management software to its clients, to all the uh, short-term available units out there, be it student accommodation, be it serviced apartments, be it entire business building complexes. We provide, Lavanda used to provide the property management software initially, and then they started growing into this field, securing. It's a fantastic bunch of professionals out there. We have a fantastic sales team, product engineers team. There's the finance team. There's a client services team. There's a lot of divisions within Lavanda that has helped to grow where it's at right now. They're fantastic investors at the back of Lavanda here, helping the organization grow. Um, they've now started adding, not starting, but we've recently expanded the revenue management team. There's a team of 5 people right now looking into the client requirements. We're helping now not just providing the software to the client, but we're taking them on an end-to-end solution, really. We're taking up a lot of we're taking off a lot of responsibilities that the clients or the real estate owners are not able to manage themselves. So we then completely manage these properties or these service apartments or these units, individual units that the clients give us. And we maximize, not just put them make them available on different OTAs, different websites, have them selling everywhere that we can. We also then go into revenue management and help these clients understand what are the long-term sustainable activities or strategies that they can implement to ensure that they're constantly gaining profits out of everything that they have available, be it student turn time, student break time, whether it's a service apartment that's available and they're not able to sell it at maximum rates. We are there to provide the entire solution to our clients at all point of times. We have a massive team now. We have team members placed in multiple countries. We're all working from home. We're constantly engaged with each other. And believe me, I speak more to my Lavanda colleagues than my family members. So they're
How depressing.
constantly. So it's a fantastic setup, really, because working from home is a challenge. If you're doing this full time, if you're not taking a break, and how Lavanda has done it, it's fantastic, and it's rated one of the top institutions or organizations to work for at the moment. So they've actually won of quite a few rewards with this. So interesting journey. Very, very nice organization to work at.
Interesting that remote working is at the heart of what Lavanda do, recruiting the top professionals worldwide with no limits by country borders or having to be in the office so many days a week. How have you found it? Because you've obviously come from your last position, a senior position in a private school in Pakistan, where I presume you were on site most days, if not every day. How have you found coming to 100% remote working?
Look, so I used to work for the Hilton. I worked for Hilton, I think a year and a half as working remotely. They gave me the option and I took that. I worked for 1.5 years in Best Western working remotely. And then this was an operational role altogether. So there's a different buzz to operations. You're dealing with hundreds of people on a daily basis, and you're constantly on the go fixing things and making sure everything is smooth and running,
Mm.
keeping in mind all the strategic vision that the owners have. Uh, I thought I would settle in very, very comfortably as soon as I would change the role because I had worked for Hilton and the Best Western almost 4 years working from home. I thought this would be easier, but it was actually a challenge in the first 2 months because one, I wasn't used to working from home again, and two, I was going into a new role with a lot of new systems, new processes, new people to work with. So I found it challenging in the first 2 months. Quite frankly, I initially thought I made a bad decision, really. But then, of course, that's the sort of person I am. I started doubting myself with regards to my ability, and I've come from really strong back. My experience is quite strong, and I've done some really strange things in my career, um, and achieved some really good results. But what the key here is that you need to take your time to settle into a work from home environment, because a lot of people will take work from home opportunities and then they would revert back to going into the physical spaces to work because they just can't settle in. I think you have to give yourself enough time to settle down into a role and then be self-disciplined in some way to get that time out of your routine so that you can get out of your desk and start moving and do other things while you're working as well. That's the beauty of working from home. So if
Mm.
you had asked the same question to Suleman 4 months ago or 5 months ago, it would have been a completely different answer altogether.
I
Now I'm
remember.
in my groove. I'm talking to people. I'm getting it's just still been about 8 months since I've been in Lavanda, but I'm much more settled in the role. And the more comfortable that you get in your role, the more you'll start enjoying the work from home benefits, really.
Mm. What name some of the specific challenges you faced and how you overcame them relating to remote work?
Well, first of all, if you start with a new organization, one, nobody can see if you're struggling with any task.
Mm.
So one, people have their own calendar set up. If you're working physically somewhere, you can just see somebody's in a kitchen taking a tea break or walking somewhere, and then you can take a walk with them to ask for their advice or seek help. Here,
Mm.
you're on your own. You don't have access to what people are doing, whether they're actually stressed out, whether they're busy, whether they engage into some personal activities. So all you have to do is go into that calendar and see what sorts of availabilities that they have. And the other thing is that you're new. You don't know people. Who is
Mm.
actually somebody who's willing to help you and somebody who's maybe not geared up for for giving you that time on that specific day. So that's one of the biggest challenges when you start off working from home. The other challenge is training. If it's a new organization, you get specific time slots for training. If and if in that training you capture whatever it is that you aspired to learn, fantastic. If not, then you'll have to revert back to those recordings of the trainings and you'll have to go learn things yourself. There's a lot of self-learning involved in working from home opportunities or jobs that are out there. And the other thing is that if you face a hardware issue, then you have to go through the entire cycle of who the hardware owners are and what sort of help they can provide you. The other and far more important thing is your mental health.
Mm.
Um, being working from home isolates you to some extent
Mm.
because presence of people around you makes a huge difference on your mood. It I am a believer that people actually give out energy and you give out energy and you absorb when you need it. And people, when they're full of it, they give out their energy. So you borrow and give energy all the time once you're there with somebody physically. That element is gone. So then you have to generate all that is within you to get yourself up, find motivation, and then be at a specific place where you are when you're working away from home. So it's a challenge, which means that you have to be okay with yourself. You have to be comfortable with yourself, which is ultimately the objective of life, really. If you're comfortable with yourself, you have hobbies, you have good activities that keep you mentally and physically fit, then I think this is the perfect place to be.
Mm. I don't think the norm has been established yet. Maybe it never will. Maybe companies will always see it differently. But we have some clients where they've gone back to five, one I can think of, 5 days in the office because they want to generate a buzz, an atmosphere, a support network. That's what they want. And And then thinking of Accor that have just changed, certainly in the UK, I think in Europe as well. There used to be 3 days in the office, and they've just changed to two, um, simply because that's what the employees want. They want to work from home basically. But I don't feel like a norm has been established as yet. I feel like things have been thrown in the air by COVID, and we're waiting to see how the pieces kind of settle to fit the jigsaw together. But obviously, it's something Lavanda do well. I mean, I was chatting to before you started at Lavanda, someone there, and they said in a recent employee satisfaction survey, they scored something like 98%. 98% of people were described a good experience of working at Lavanda and they were happy. So what does Lavanda do? How does it do it so well, remote working? What does it do to ease the pain points?
I think to be a good employer when you're giving out opportunities for remote working, what Lavanda is, it's very flexible. It's one of the best organizations I've worked for. There are rooms for making errors. There's always somebody to have your back. There are different sessions that are being held online, video calls, conference calls, where people have a good laugh. It's it's somewhat of a very friendly environment to work in, where you're at ease, knowing that not a lot of people are judging your performances, and somebody is there to have your back. I can easily message the CEO of the organization and have a chat with him. An amazing guy. I can also do that with the VP of operations.
Hmm.
If they're not available at that time, they'll make sure that they make some time and have this conversation with me. I got a fantastic camera from the VP operations here. I mean, I'm just giving you an example. Not salary is not always something that give you employee satisfaction. I just mentioned to the VP of operations, "Hey, you look really good on this on the screen. What are you doing?" And the next thing I know, I have this camera sent over to me in Pakistan. It was such a fantastic gesture. I loved it. And these are small little things that Lavanda does constantly. They give you health benefits, they give you allowances to go out there, enjoy your gym, make sure you're eating healthy, make sure you're having fun. And it's the sort of company culture which lets you set at ease. It's something that is very important for somebody like me who's in his 43. I mean, I'm 43 years now. I think I've said that twice, bloody hell. But for somebody, I needed flexibility. I needed to express myself. And working remotely in this organizational culture has actually given me that space to be myself. And that's very important for somebody working remotely, because otherwise, if you don't have enough support, which you won't have working remotely, and the company culture is as such that they're constantly pushing you for deliverables without understanding what your needs are, then it becomes a
Hmm.
really big challenge, which Lavana handles beautifully. I mean, we had a Christmas bake-off challenge. Imagine doing that on a remote basis. How would you, and people turning their cameras on and their laptop, flipping their laptop screens, showing how their brownies turned out to be. It was fantastic. So we
It's
had a
fun.
competition. Like, so yeah.
Yeah, no. And it's the little things, isn't it, that make you feel valued. I spoke on previous shows about my own experience of, so I was on site in hotels for years. COVID came and there's nothing in hospitality. I worked in charity for about 15 months, I think, which was nice. It was hybrid. You know, I enjoyed the novelty of working from home, I think. Also enjoyed going into the office. And then to go 100% remote. But again, yeah, again, it is the little things. I mean, I remember starting and Tom sent me a package with my laptop and all my kit in. But in there was, I can't remember exactly, some chocolates, a bottle of wine, some Lego for my son because he knew that I had a son was 7 at the time and he was into Lego at that point. So he knew that. So it's just those little touches we had. It's easier, I suppose, for us because we're all UK based. So we do meet up 4 or 5 times a year, maybe, which kind of helps really with certainly helped with integration. But we ran a competition, a sales-based competition this week where you know the winner won. That was me, by the way. The winner won a 50 pound voucher. Um,
Nice.
all help with integration. We're posting stuff on the WhatsApp group, saying how we're getting on, and it's those little things, isn't it, that make you feel less isolated. I think when I started, constantly. I was aware, really, really aware that I may become feel a little ostracized. So I used to go in the early days, I'd go and I'd work half a day in the Costa Coffee down the road. I may not even speak to anyone, but it's just a change of environments. Breaking the day up by, 'cause it's very easy, I think, did it last night, for instance. I was engrossed in what I was doing. Next thing I knew, my wife was coming in from work. It was, wow, it's 20 to 7. Where did that go? So it's important if you do that I'd maybe go out for a run in my lunch break or something just to energize for a change of scenery, get some exercise and feel better. Um, is it down to, I suppose both, but is it down to the company to put things like this in place for remote workers, or is it down to the individual to think, this is how I'm going to kind of manage it with a little bit of foresight?
I think there's certain things an organization can do, but really depends on each individual, how they're taking care of themselves. Um, Working remotely gives you a lot of flexibility with regards to how you want to do things. You can work over the weekends, you can work long hours, and then take midweek breaks in between. It really depends on how you want to manage your work, provided, of course,
Mm,
you're meeting the deadlines. Um, Sometimes people are workaholics. Sometimes they want to keep a work-life balance into check. An
mm,
organization can help you with regards to your social interactions to some extent. So we have something called a virtual coffee donut. So we have these meetings with our team members, with our colleagues once a week or maybe once in 2 weeks, where we interact with different colleagues and we share our experiences. We have a chat, have a laugh, whatever we want to do really for half an hour to an hour times. But there's an extent to what an organization can do for you to make you feel better, so to make you feel not so isolated. But if you've chosen the role to work from home, then the critical element becomes the discipline of time management and how you compartmentalize your hours so that you are mentally fit all the time. Um, I think it's really heavily dependent on the individual. And I think self-discipline is critical when it comes to working from home.
yeah,
Because remember, I'm sitting in a room where I watch a lot of TV. This is my breakaway room. Now, if I
yeah,
turn towards my left, this is the desk, this is the station that I'm looking at. This is my
yeah,
workplace. Now, how do I separate myself from the workplace to my breakaway room? It
yeah,
becomes a challenge sometimes. So then what I started doing was I started taking my walks. I started meeting my friends. Sometimes I go for lunch, put myself out of office during that time, go for lunch, have spend a little bit time of with my children. Um, but then again, I in my head or in my calendar, I know that these are the time slots, these are my deliverables. I need to manage those as well. I think taking care of yourself is your ultimate responsibility, and the organizations can only help you to a small extent.
mm. It's picking up on something that you said. It's in a book that I read recently called Atomic Habits by James Clear, and he mentions that in talking about working from home, it's really important to have. I'm quite lucky where I have a home office. It's not massive, it's a box room basically, but it's where I go to work. Not everyone, if you're in, I suppose, a London city centre, not everyone can afford a house so big that you could have a home office. But he said if you've just got this section of this room is for work, this section is for leisure, watching TV, playing PlayStation or whatever that, because your brain just can't. And a good example of it, I think, is I was feeling ill one day, but I dragged myself from the bed down one floor to the home office to work. I kept my dressing gown on because I wasn't feeling great. I could not. have done a worse thing. I couldn't get into work because my body was in the comfort of the dressing gown, which you associate with comfort and evenings and kicking back and relaxing and watching Netflix. I had to take it off. It was just like it was so incongruous in my brain that, and it's a really important point that you brought up there because yeah, you do need a definite workspace, don't you? And definite leisure space. Certainly no dressing gown working.
Well, yeah, I mean, in revenue man, I have three screens in front of me right now. So, um, obviously, I'm very privileged to be in Pakistan at the moment. To be very honest, if I tell you, the spaces are a lot bigger than what they were in the UK for me.
Yeah.
We have quite a large amount of space, so I can easily put my office in a separate corner. But I can understand the challenges of doing this in a smaller space, because then how do you separate work from home? How do you
Mm,
define that line? And that's the ultimate challenge of working from home, because your sanctuary is now your office.
yeah.
How do you make
Yeah.
that balance? It's one of those things, and that is why people who work from home, I would assume so, they're far more active when they go out, because that becomes their break. That is their
Yeah.
sanctuary. It changes to some extent.
Absolutely. You and I are roughly the same age. We've got the benefit of a certain amount of experience, life experience behind us. But I do worry about students going from university to, say, going straight into a revenue analyst role that's 100% remote. And yes, some companies will have that. You're in the office for 3 months, learning and training, and then you'll go to be a remote worker. They may have a hybrid arrangement, but some maybe not. Say if you guys at Lavanda took on a revenue analyst, there'd be no, you're all over the world. It's impossible to get together for that. So they'd have to be a worker from, a remote worker from day one. I really worry about the challenge of that, a young person adapting to going straight from university to remote working.
Um, I've always believed that the younger generation has more access to information, more technology than we ever had. This is obviously an age gap here and generation gap, if we might say as well.
Mm,
Um, while people may say that they have a lot of privileges, the younger lot, I also think that there are a lot of challenges for this generation as well. What the reason why I say is that when I was a young kid, I had to do some university assignments. We had to go to different libraries to make sure that we have the relevant content available on the matter that we were researching. And if that library wasn't available, then we'd have to go to another place to find the references that we're looking for.
mm,
This generation has a lot of opportunity in terms of the access to information. A lot of job roles are actually floating out there that at least somebody like me didn't have access to. But what it also does, this newer model of working, it's that it is geared towards taking them into an isolated roles, which are remote working opportunities. That means that there's actually nobody out there providing them mentorship or guidance that I used to get when I worked physically at any place. So there is a challenge. There's a lot of self-learning that these students will have to do. They'll have to discipline themselves. That's one of the biggest challenges for somebody who's just got out of uni um, and going into a remote role. So because first of all, you have to cultivate self-discipline and time management skills. Can you actually do that? Transition from a university student going into a professional environment on your own, um, and teaching yourself how to manage your time. Again, like I said, organizations can assist you in setting your time goals, and they can give you guidances, but ultimately it is the person himself or herself sitting in that role saying, this time actually works for me for work, and this is my leisure time. What are my peaks? What are my peak performing hours? For me, it's 10 a.m. in the morning. As a person, I know that at 10 a.m., I'm the most productive. And from
Yeah.
10 a.m. till 3 p.m., I'm the most productive as I can be. And from that
Yeah.
3 p.m. time downwards, it is my downtime. So I would be very careful in not setting meetings between 10 to 3 p.m. That is my time to do work and to be
Yeah.
as productive as I can. And then schedule these meetings 3 p.m. onwards so that I have then the ability to absorb things rather than work on projects. So this is one of the things that the students will have to do. Um, and again, the other bit is that how do you work on your communication skills? Because now um, the advantages that you and I maybe had was that we could read a person looking at their facial expressions, their body
Mm.
language. We could understand their moods. Here, there is no physical chance that you know that if I'm not on a video call with somebody, how are they feeling? Can I actually approach
Yeah.
this person for something? So your written skills and your verbal communication skills, your ability to come on the screen and convince somebody of your ideas, that's another challenge that this generation might have. Now, again, I have 19 years worth of experience with me. I know how to negotiate or the outcomes or negotiate timelines. For somebody who has
Mm.
not been into this professional working environment, this will take a little bit of time and settling into those roles to understand because not everybody is the same. I'm now an extrovert, but before that, I wouldn't go out and seek help. Nobody said that it was a good thing of seeking out help, getting over your insecurities about somebody thinking that you're not actually able to do your job. So these things come with experience, but then again, this generation will have a challenge with regards to how to ask for help. They might be outspoken as well going forward. My kids are really young, so I can't really say with confidence. But these um, it's a lot about self-discipline. I mean, for example, I've deliberately invested in a lot of equipment for working from home. I've made sure that this is my workspace. This is where it's business for me. I need to be comfortable. I need to have all the equipment that is necessary for me to do my job properly. So I've then created this compartment within my house, within my home, that I know that this area is this designated for work only. I cannot go in and mess about here. Again, about a lot about self-discipline. And then the other challenge is that you're networking. If somebody is going into a remote working role immediately out of university, your networking all has to be virtually done. Meaning lots of webinars, lots of conferences, going into social media and linking with different professionals, and these professionals not knowing who you are and just randomly, because there are millions of people out there trying to connect with you at different
Mm.
levels. Somebody accepting those connection requests and initiating that conversation at a social level becomes far more challenging for if you haven't seen that person altogether, if you
Mm.
haven't met them. Um, and then again, for students coming into a remote working role, they need to understand what are they getting into as well. Because I get it. Securing a job, getting that experience on your profile, it's critical for any young person coming into the professional world. But understanding the dynamics and the challenges of remote working, it's critical because you don't want to get into a role and 3 months down the road, you say, I cannot actually do this because I need to interact with people. So
Yeah.
maybe
Absolutely.
in the universities, they need to actually go into, and I think remote working is now here to stay. It's not going away. Um, I've seen one of my friends, she's 24 years old. She's making a lot more money than I am. She's actually a lot happier in her role. But then, for somebody who's coming in, they need to understand whether they're comfortable with themselves. And the universities should play a really good role here because this is now a completely different dynamics of working in the professional world.
Mm,
People should be given training with regards to what is working from home, what challenges it entails, and what sort of activities one need to do before going into the professional world. I think there's a lot of there's a huge uh, in Pakistan the opportunities are very limited. But once I started working in a co-working space in my initial time with Lavanda, I realized how many kids, and when I'm saying kids, it's like 24 till 26 years of age. These are kids
anyone
who are
under
being
40?
no, yeah, anyone under 40 is a kid. Yeah. I realized how many of these young guns were actually working from Pakistan into the US, Brazil, you name it, in Europe. They're
Yeah.
working everywhere and they're working remotely. And how these guys have figured out to remain social is they've created these co-working spaces where everybody interacts with each other, yet is
Mm,
not a colleague. So they're building their networking skills around that element.
which is
So
brilliant.
there are a lot of ways that you can be productive while working from home, but it's not a piece of cake, definitely. You have to work for
No,
yourself.
no. And I think, and this is a discussion point for another show, but it comes down to whether the universities are actually teaching these soft skills, or whether they're leaving it for the student, the graduate, to bumble through life and pick these up as they go along. I think it's. I was on a soft skills symposium at University of West London a couple of months ago now, and we were all stunned at how we had a panel discussion. There's 10, 12 of us, and we were all stunned at the outcome of it, which kind of we left the discussion thinking that soft skills are actually more important at grad level than hard skills. So um, it's certainly something to pick up. Listen, I'm going to let you go because you said just off camera that you had a load of work land on your desk about 20 minutes before you jumped on the call to me, so you need to get cracking with that. But genuinely, Suleiman, thank you for coming on. I don't think I could have picked anyone better to discuss the subjects of the challenges of remote working. Someone that's been there and done it, someone that can, speak with some authority on the subject. So thank you for sharing your views.
You're welcome, Jason. Thank you for having me. It's a pleasure, and hope we can have a chat soon.
And that's all we've got time for this week. Like and shares are appreciated because it helps us attract cool guests like Suleiman. See you next week.